Sometimes the shortest stories are the ones that stay with us the longest. So tonight I'm doing something a little different, a quick descent into a story that's just as chilling, just a little harder to shake. It was January 3rd, 1984, a cold night in Disneyland. Disneyland, my favorite. The park was still alive, music drifting through the air, laughter echoing off the castle walls. The illusion still intact. It sounds like the perfect night. And then a scream. Not the kind you expect from a roller coaster, not the kind that fades into laughter. This one didn't stop. Because somewhere inside the shadowed tunnels of the Matterhorn bobsleds, something had gone terribly wrong. And by the time the ride came to a halt, a woman was gone. My name is Marissa, your morbidly curious host, and this is Death Kiss Traveler, where we explore the dark side of the places meant to bring us joy. Theme parks, carnivals, and even the circus. Stories they don't want you to remember, stories hidden in the archives. And I felt like we all needed a little midweek chill. So here's a quick, eerie story to hold you over until Friday. Just enough to keep you thinking and maybe a little unsettled. Tonight, we're climbing a mountain. The mountain. But not everything buried in the snow stays frozen, and this ride is well known around the world. So it's time you know the secrets it holds. When the Matterhorn opened in 1959 at Disneyland, it wasn't just a ride, it was a revolution. Created under the vision of Walt Disney, the Matterhorn was the world's first tubular steel coaster, a technology leap that would change theme parks forever. Inspired by the real Matterhorn, the towering structure became an instant icon in the Disneyland skyline. But what guests didn't realize was that this mountain was more than just steel and imagination. It was tight, cramped, and unforgiving. Inside, the ride twists through narrow tunnels, sharp turns, and sudden drops. No modern restraints, no over-the-shoulder harness, just a lap bar and trust. It was Tuesday, January 3rd, 1984. Just after the holidays, one of those quieter nights at Disneyland where the crowds had thinned but the park was still very much alive. Those are my favorite nights. It was evening, shortly after dark, when the Matterhorn feels different. Colder, louder, a little more disorienting, because inside the Matterhorn, visibility drops fast. You're plunged into near total darkness between brief flashes of light. And that matters, because what happened next happened where almost no one could see it. Dolly Reagan was 48 years old, and she boarded one of the bobsleds. She had come to Disneyland with 4 of her friends, and between 1959 and the 80s, they did add a seatbelt to the restraint systems, but the ride's restraint system was still minimal. And that seatbelt, well, it was not always checked or even secured in the way that modern rides enforce it today. Guests often shifted in their seats, leaned into turns, even lifted slightly during drops. That was a part of the thrill. Dolly's bobsled dispatched, and it climbed the lift hill, clicking upward into the hollow interior of the mountain. Then the drop. The speed, the violent side-to-side motion the Matterhorn is known for. And at some point during the ride, likely during a high-speed turn or a sudden drop, Dolly Reagan was no longer properly secured. Investigators later could not definitively determine the exact moment, but based on the layout of the track, witness timing, it's believed she either shifted position and slipped beneath the lap bar, or attempted to adjust herself mid-ride, losing stability, or she was standing up and was thrown upward and out during a sharp lateral force. No matter what she was doing, she was ejected. Not from a great height, but enough. She fell from the bobsled onto the narrow track channel below. A confined space where the ride's steel rails snake through the mountain. There's almost no clearance. No safe zone, no place to move if she could. And what makes this moment especially haunting is this. The ride did not immediately stop because the operators didn't see it and her friends were sitting in front. Inside the mountain, there was no real-time cameras like there is today, no instant detection system, just darkness, noise, and timing intervals. Seconds later, another bobsled entered that same section of track, moving at approximately 20 to 30 miles per hour through the enclosed tunnel. The riders inside, they had no idea. No warning, no time to react. What were they going to do? And then, impact. Guests nearby reported hearing something different. Not the usual clatter of steel on track, not a scream that turns into laughter, but something heavier. A sound that didn't belong. A body dragging along a track? Some riders thought it was a part of the attraction, a prop, a mechanical effect, because in a place like Disneyland, your brain tries to make sense of the impossible. There was no woman standing on the track, but others knew, and they said the energy shifted instantly. The ride felt wrong. The bobsled completed its course, and it pulled back into the unloading station, and that's when the confusion began. Operators began hearing fragmented reports. Someone is missing. Something was on the track, a disturbance inside the mountain. The ride was shut down. Emergency crews were called, and inside the Matterhorn, in the dark, narrow space beneath the track, they found her. Dolly Reagan was pronounced dead at the scene from traumatic injuries. The investigation that followed focused heavily on one key factor: restraint failure. Specifically, the seatbelt not being secured. At the time, this wasn't just a design issue, it was an operational one. Unlike today's strict ride checks, enforcement in the early 1980s relied more on guest compliance and visual confirmations. And in a ride as aggressive as the Matterhorn, the margin for error was unforgiving. The Matterhorn track is extremely tight and enclosed, which is why one fall onto the track is especially dangerous. There is also very little spacing between bobsled dispatches. They load you up and send you off, meaning another vehicle entering the same section, within seconds, it's completely normal. And at the time, ride monitoring technology, it was limited, especially inside dark rides or enclosed coasters. And here's the part that stays with you. She didn't fall off the ride into open air. She fell into the path of it. After the incident, something shifted. Not the crowds, not the lines, but the stories. Because employees started talking. Late night maintenance workers, ride operators closing down the mountain, they began to report something strange. Footsteps when no one was there. Voices echoing through the tunnels, and one story that keeps resurfacing. A figure seen near the track, disappearing into the darkness before anyone could get close. Now, Disney has never confirmed any hauntings, and realistically, there are logical explanations. Echoes, machinery, overactive imaginations in a dark, enclosed space. But when you know what happened there, it's hard not to feel something. So, fact or fiction, was there really a death on the Matterhorn? That's a fact. Was it caused by the ride? Yes, but it was because the seatbelt was not latched. You are safe now. Is the ride haunted? Officially, no. Unofficially, that depends on who you ask. This story stays with you because it wasn't supposed to happen. Not here, not in the happiest place on earth, but that's what makes stories like this so powerful. They remind us that behind every perfectly designed experience, there is still a risk, still unpredictability, still humanity. And sometimes that's where the real stories begin. So next time you find yourself at Disneyland and you look up at that snow-covered peak, ask yourself, how many stories are buried beneath it? And if you listen closely, in the quiet moments between screams and laughter, you might hear what's still echoing through those tunnels. My name is Marissa, and I thank you for listening to this mini episode of Death Kiss Traveler. It's been a minute since I've dropped a mini episode, and honestly, I'm kind of obsessed with it again. What do you think? Should I bring more of these your way? If you love this episode, Follow along and leave a 5-star review. I would really appreciate it. It helps me grow and it helps more people find these stories that are hiding in plain sight. Come find me on Instagram and TikTok at Death Kiss Traveler Podcast. I'm bringing you new episodes every Friday, and this week is one of my favorite stories I've ever covered. We're going somewhere even darker, and trust me, you're going to want to sit back and enjoy the show. I'll see you later, my spooky friends.